Hi, welcome everyone to this recorded webinar with MBL seminars on the taxation of intellectual property in the UK. My name's Carl Lisi. I'm a senior manager in the tax technical team at Moore Kingston Smith. And as the subheading indicates, we'll be discussing some of the principles, pitfalls, and best practice, particularly around the corporation tax treatment of intellectual property and intangible assets in the UK tax system. So just briefly covering the course aims. So these are the various topics we're going to be discussing today. We're initially going to introduce you to the scope of the corporate intangibles regime. So this is the specific regime which deals with intellectual and intangible property and defines the corporation tax treatment of that property. We're going to move on to consider what we mean by intangible assets and what we subsequently mean by intellectual property as well, defining what types of assets are covered in the corporate intangibles regime. We'll deal with some specific particularities around the tax treatment of goodwill, specifically some changes in both 2015 and 2019, which means that there's some additional complexity to consider in this area. We'll consider some of the exclusions, so particular assets, such as those relating to land, financial assets, and other rights in companies, are not covered by the corporate intangibles regime, and we'll discuss those in slightly more detail. We'll also consider the Pre-Finance Act 2002 cutoff being 1st of April 2002, and understanding how that date is important for defining the scope and defining what is within the corporate intangibles regime. Subsequently, we'll also be discussing the various, as many of you will obviously be here to understand, is the tax consequences on acquisition and creation of intellectual property and intangibles more generally, discussing the corporation tax relief available for various bits of expenditure, the tax consequences when a company disposes of intangible assets within the regime, as well as some particularities around revaluation. So what can arise when, or what tax consequences rather can arise where you have a revaluation of certain intangibles.